This is pretty difficult video for me to make. It's unlike any other video you'll probably see. Very few, I think especially content creators in the business world make a video like this. I failed. That's what happened. I wanted to do something. I wanted something and I didn't get it. What happened was I had applied for a role. It's been a long time since I've applied for a role. It's been a long time since I've been really excited, I think, about something new, something fresh. It was a 6-month project, which the main project was going to be 2.5 months on the road in Europe, going to every single European country, going to every single mountain peak with a large content creator and his neighbor, who's also helping him make a lot of content and whatnot. The odds are obviously stacked against me. No doubt there. But I had got into the first part. I made it through the first part of the application. Well, made it to the second part. And that's where I failed. And where the failure happened was this blog. Ignore Gary Vee. Go to the one next to it. The Weekend of Firsts. And I got really good feedback about it. Thankfully, Pesley was really cool. Gave me actually really good feedback, and it was really, it was nothing personal. It was great. But it does suck to fail. And like I said, most content creators, especially I think in the business world, are not going to make a video like this. Most of them don't show failure. Content creators in general do not show failure, at least very rarely. But I want to make you the best business content, the most realistic business content. And one of the best learnings that I've ever had in my career was to celebrate your failures. And most people are like probably very confused by that on the surface level, especially those of you who have never worked in tech. But one, failure, celebrating your failure there's multiple reasons to do it, and I'll explain what we mean by that phrase. But one of those is you tried something different. You tried something new. You tried to evolve. You tried to change. You tried to do something, and it failed, and that's okay. You learn from it. You move on. Done. And that should be celebrated in itself, right? Especially in the business world, especially your career, especially different things. If you're trying something new, that's where the next frontier is, right? I've spent most of my career in tech and on the new business vertical side. So I'm very familiar with this. Most of the new verticals that I worked on were slam dunks, but that doesn't mean there wasn't hiccups and there weren't learnings and there weren't a lot of failures along the way. So failure is good. The other thing is, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're never going to learn. You're never going to get potentially feedback. You're never going to evolve. And that is why failure is important. In this particular case, I actually filmed the content from the feedback. One of the feedback, the main piece of feedback was there wasn't enough personality. There wasn't enough of me in there. If you watch some of my other vlogs on my YouTube channel, The Wolf of DoorDash, I have a couple other vlogs. There's a little bit me more talking. In the initial cut, I actually had that. And through the cutting room floor, I, trying to figure out what I really want to broadcast. I think I just got lost in the weeds. And it's a good learning. Key lesson is look at what the task at hand is given and what's going to be the best thing for it. And I think initially, what I was actually doing when I was filming that vlog, I was creating the project daily. So I would get back to my hotel room and I was uploading it. I was putting on there. I was adding clips and whatnot. And there was different things. Like, for instance, I went to Lost Spirits Distillery, which was a experience in Las Vegas. And at one point I go to this massive, it's a massive warehouse room. And there's this giant thing in the middle with a bunch of white lights and a dark liquid in it. And it's actually rum. and that's how they age rum. They use it with light. So their aged rum is actually aged much faster and not by sitting there because they're a smaller distillery. And I explained that. And there's a couple other clips that I'm genuinely talking. I'm not going to say that would have saved it. I don't know. But at least I was closer to the mark. And so, especially in content creation, we've had a pretty big sponsorship with HelloFresh this week, and last like 14 days or in total 14 days. But it's a good reminder to not get lost in the weeds. And so this video is related to one, celebrate my failures. I failed this week on something pretty big that I wanted. How I failed is kind of classic. You start to put your own ideas and whatnot, and you start to shift from the goal at hand, right? And that's broader learning here is for me, like, not to get lost in the weeds, to kind of remember what the North Star goals are. In this case, I had 3 very clear goals that were given to me. And yeah, by the time my finished product, which was a fun, good product, like I like it, like in general, I think it was a good video, but again, it missed the mark. So yeah, a little bummed out, a little. If you couldn't tell by how many times I'm saying little, but it's a good learning. And yeah, this whole thing is not always W's. It's not always wins. It's not always feel good stuff. There are losses. And there's going to be more. There's going to be a lot more. I think actually probably my biggest also failure and mistake, now that I'm really looking back on it with my whole content creation journey, is not making more of these, not explaining more of the failures. Because again, this is such an industry where it's only W's. You're only the best. You're only this. You're only that. When in reality, nothing is like that. And I personally, through my career and my life, have seen the value of explaining failure, talking to it with others. You get to grow from it. You get to learn from it. You get to not make those mistakes. And I think most importantly, you get to help people not make those mistakes. So it's a basic reminder, but I think we all forget this when you're thrown on a project, when you're doing something, a task. Just remember what the North Star goals are. What are we supposed to be building here? What am I supposed to, it's any project. And whether that's building an app, building a website, whether that is solving how to mitigate something, whether it's construction, whatever it is, right? Could be drilling oil. Doesn't really matter. What's your North Star goal? Everything you do in task you have, there's a North Star goal. Follow it. And basically everything that you're doing, every step along the way, make sure you're having those gut checks of, am I achieving that North Star goal? Because one, I could have shot additional content when I was there, a little bit more in the moment, explaining things a little bit better. Especially because it was a full weekend. I saw friends that I haven't seen for literally years. One friend I hadn't seen for, I think, like 8 years. So I obviously was that. I was also having fun, and I was trying to make this thing. And at least it was very genuine. Also to the experience. It wasn't just me finding one thing to do. It would have been pretty realistic to what this actual project was, which is one reason I was really excited about it. I was actually really excited because it was real life applicable, and you can't always do that. If it was a boring weekend for me or any other, it was really, if any other week, the content would have been very different. So, another lesson is you strike while the iron's hot. If you have an opportunity to capitalize on it, you do. And that's what I did. I had an opportunity because I had this trip planned for months, and I was going for it. Um, there's even one clip in there that I tried a canned margarita at the airport for the first time, and I gave a little review of it. I was like, yeah, it tastes pretty good, blah, blah, blah. Not bad, 12.5%. I went through the motions of a genuine review. And that's how I started the trip off. And it shoulda, woulda, couldas are always gonna happen here. And that's not, I think, valuable when you're in that situation. But these learnings are good. Um, if you have a task, or especially if it's a big one or a daunting one, or if you are working on something and you're feeling a little lost, a little confused, a little, where do I take this? Just remember what your North Star goals are. What are you trying to achieve? Or maybe more importantly, what are your bosses or whoever is trying to achieve? And if you have those goals front and center with the best intentions, maybe you won't fail like I did.